On the flight to Los Angeles, a successful black woman was denied an upgrade, while it was given to a white man behind her. This act of discrimination sparked a series of events that shook the airline and society. What happened next stunned even the most jaded observers. But let's start from the beginning. Alice Johnson walked confidently into JFK Terminal, dressed in a sharp gray suit that perfectly highlighted her professionalism. Her flight to Los Angeles was pivotal. At the investor meeting, she intended to secure a billion-dollar contract. Arriving at the check-in counter, she requested an upgrade to business class. "I'm afraid there are no available seats," said Michael, a young Zenith Airlines employee, with a strained smile. His eyes scanned her appearance, as if evaluating whether she deserved the service. Aware of the loyalty program rules, Alice clarified, "But I'm eligible for an upgrade based on my status. Could you explain why I've been denied?" Michael didn't respond, but moments later, Alice noticed him cheerfully announcing an upgrade for a white man in a sporty jacket who had been standing behind her. She watched as the passenger was handed a business class ticket without hesitation. Stepping forward again, Alice politely asked, "Excuse me, but how could I miss the spot when I was ahead of him?" Michael frowned and replied sharply, "We grant upgrades to passengers who better match the expectations of our airline." Alice felt anger boiling inside her, but chose not to make a scene. Clutching her economy class boarding pass, she headed to the gate, replaying this blatant act of discrimination in her mind. On board, things only got worse. Her seat was crammed in the middle of a narrow row. When she tried to retrieve her laptop from her bag, she accidentally nudged the woman seated next to her, who immediately snapped, "These people just don't know how to behave." At that moment, Michael, now in a flight attendant uniform, passed by. Seeing the commotion, he leaned toward Alice and said, "Ma'am, please try not to disturb other passengers." Alice smirked. "I wasn't trying to." But inside, a spark was lit. She realized that this flight would mark the beginning of something much bigger. Alice settled into her aisle seat, but relaxation was out of the question. Barely had the plane taken off when small clashes began to escalate. The woman on her left ostentatiously shifted away, drawing an invisible line with her blanket, and loudly complained to the flight attendant, "I feel uncomfortable sitting next to such a mess." Alice managed a restrained smile, though her internal fury grew stronger. Trying to focus, she opened her laptop to refine her presentation. However, her limited space made her accidentally nudge the tray table of the passenger in front, who turned around with an annoyed glare. Minutes later, Michael reappeared, his expression now laced with smug satisfaction. "Ma'am, please try not to disturb other passengers, or I'll have to intervene." Alice closed her laptop, unable to tolerate any more. She turned to Michael. "Are you deliberately singling me out? Why am I the one explaining myself when others are far more disruptive?" Michael's barely concealed smirk only deepened. "We're simply ensuring the comfort of all our passengers." The tension thickened. Alice noticed several empty seats in business class, the same ones she had been told were unavailable. She discreetly snapped a photo of the vacant seats with her phone. When Michael passed by again, she asked coldly, "May I know why I was denied an upgrade, yet these seats remain empty?" Michael leaned in slightly and murmured, ensuring no one else could hear, "We consider various factors, like the passenger's appearance and how well they fit the airline's image." It was clear to Alice now. This wasn't company policy. It was personal bias. Without a word, she took another photo, this time with Michael in the foreground, and sent it to the PR director of her company via Messenger. "We have a problem," she added to the photo. Alice then began drafting a detailed account of the incident, unaware that her message was about to unleash a storm far beyond her expectations. As the plane began its descent, Alice decided that her silence had lasted long enough. Her patience was gone, and she was ready to act. She pressed the call button for the flight attendant. "How can I assist you?" the attendant asked coldly, as she approached Alice's seat. "I would like to speak with the captain. I need to file an official complaint about the service," Alice said calmly but firmly. The flight attendant frowned in annoyance, but after a brief hesitation, headed toward the cockpit. A few minutes later, she returned. "The captain is willing to hear you out, but he asks that you keep it brief," she said curtly, motioning toward the aisle. Alice stood, aware of the stares from other passengers, and walked to the cockpit. She was greeted by the captain, a tall man with neatly cropped gray hair. He stood with his arms crossed, radiating clear displeasure. "I hear you have a complaint," he said without bothering with pleasantries. Alice began recounting her experience, being denied an upgrade despite her eligibility, the empty seats in business class, and Michael's repeated unprofessional behavior. "I've observed him throughout the flight," she concluded. "He repeatedly granted privileges to passengers based on appearance while ignoring others. This behavior is unacceptable." The captain sighed, looking at Alice as if questioning her credibility. "Miss, please understand. We have strict policies in place. Upgrade decisions are made quickly and in the best interests of all passengers," he said, barely concealing his irritation. Alice didn't back down. "Your policy leaves seats empty rather than offering them to loyalty program members who are entitled to them. This isn't policy, it's personal prejudice from your staff." The captain frowned, but said nothing. "We'll investigate, but that's all for now, miss. Please return to your seat," he said, clearly wanting to end the conversation. Back at her seat, Alice pulled out her phone. She sent photos of the empty business class seats, screenshots of her exchange with Michael, and a concise report to her PR director. "This is critical. The discrimination is undeniable. Prepare for rapid response," she added to the file. Once the plane landed and passengers were allowed to disembark, Alice overheard Michael loudly bidding farewell to some business class passengers, while completely ignoring everyone else. She watched as he smiled and warmly greeted select individuals, without so much as a glance in her direction. As Alice walked toward the exit, her phone buzzed with notifications. Her PR director had sent a brief message. "Are you okay? We're coordinating with legal counsel." Moments later, her phone rang. It was her attorney. "Alice, I've reviewed the materials. This is serious. Your photos and documentation are already under scrutiny. Are you sure you want to pursue this?" "Absolutely. This is a matter of principle," she replied, striding confidently through the terminal. Just as she exited the arrivals area, another call came through, this time from the office of the CEO of Zenith Airlines. "Miss Johnson, we are aware of the incident on your flight. Our CEO would like to discuss the matter with you personally. Could you remain at the airport for a meeting?" Alice allowed herself a faint smile. The situation was escalating quickly, and now she had the opportunity to hold the company accountable. "Of course," she said, heading toward the designated VIP lounge. She knew this was just the beginning. Zenith Airlines was about to face intense scrutiny, and there would be no way for them to cover up their mistakes. Alice met with the representatives of Zenith Airlines in a private lounge. She was greeted by the CEO, David Holland, a man with a solid reputation and decades of experience. Today, however, he looked visibly uneasy. "Miss Johnson, we've reviewed the materials you provided. First and foremost, let me extend my sincerest apologies. What happened was completely unacceptable," he began, striving to maintain professionalism. Alice listened intently, then responded calmly. "Apologies are important, but they mean nothing without real action. Your staff's behavior not only violates corporate standards, but also tarnishes your company's reputation. If I weren't a CEO myself, my story might have gone unnoticed." David paused, then nodded. "You're absolutely right. We've already launched an internal investigation. Those responsible will be held accountable, and our customer service policies will be reviewed." Alice wasn't about to settle for vague assurances. "That's not enough. I want to see mandatory inclusivity training for all your employees. Additionally, your internal procedures must be restructured to prevent incidents like this in the future. My company is willing to assist your team in developing these changes, should you choose to leverage our expertise." David realized he wasn't dealing with just an upset customer, but a leader determined to disrupt the status quo. He agreed to her proposal. The next day, the story went public. Alice's LinkedIn post went viral, garnering millions of views and thousands of comments. In her post, she recounted the incident but focused on the broader need for change in corporate culture and the importance of respecting all customers. Zenith Airlines responded swiftly, issuing a public apology and pledging to overhaul its policies. Michael was suspended, and the company initiated a comprehensive anti-discrimination training program for all employees. A few weeks later, Alice returned to Zenith Airlines headquarters to finalize a deal to implement her company's technology solutions. During the meeting, David thanked her for helping transform the culture of his business. "Your impact on our company has been greater than we could have anticipated. We're better because of you." Alice smiled, holding the signed contract in her hands. Sometimes it only takes one situation to inspire real change. I hope you'll make the most of this opportunity. The story concluded on a high note. Alice not only defended her rights, but became a catalyst for industry-wide reform. Her actions reminded everyone that even a single voice has the power to challenge and transform an entire system.